Nothing can stop me, I'm all the way up.
Math Morning, Mr. Dirk is back at it again. Today we'll be solving quadratics by using square roots.
Alright, so let's start solving these. X squared equals 25. Well, you might just know this off the top of your head. You might say, well, x equals, 5 times 5 is 25. So it equals 5, right? But be careful. It can also be negative 5. What about negative 5 squared? That also equals 25. So you could write x equals 5 or negative 5. Alright, this has two answers, just like when we graph these, two answers. And you can write your answer like this, but there's actually a better way that is a little shorter, and most mathematicians use it. So instead of 5 or negative 5, we write plus or minus 5. Alright, so plus or minus 5 means it could be 5 or negative 5. How do we do this, right? There's a lot of other questions similar to this, so let's solve them. When you have x squared, to get x by itself, you always do the inverse operation. The inverse of something being squared is the square root. The square root. And when you take the square root, right, your answer is going to be a plus or minus 5. Okay? Now, let's try another one doing the square root first. So, we've got, okay, this is 3x squared equals 33. Before I get the x squared, before I take the square root, I want to get it by itself. So I can divide by 3. Divide by 3. Alright, that cancels. Then I have x squared equals 33 divided by 3 is 11. So now, if I take the square root of both sides, this side just becomes x, and this side becomes plus or minus the square root of 11. So this is an answer, but the directions say leave it in a decimal form, and it said round to the nearest 100th. That's 2 decimal points. So I'm going to put this in the calculator, okay? X equals, let me get my calculator. Oh, that's the wrong one. Alright, so we want the square root of 11. And I said round to the nearest 100th, that's 2 decimal points. So we got 1, 2 right there. The next number is a 6. That means this has to go up to a 2. So the square root of 11 is 3.32. Okay. So x equals 3.32. That's the positive root. It can also be the negative root, or negative 3.32. And you can write it this way, but it's better to write it x equals plus or minus 3.32. Just like that. Moving on. So now this one over here, I want to get x squared by itself. To do that, I can always draw this little t. If I do a plus 5, it cancels this. Pew, gone. Plus 5. Okay. Now I'm left. The equal sign goes there. 2x squared equals 15. Just like this first, the second one, to get x squared by itself, I need to divide by the coefficient. So divide by 2. Divide by 2. That cancels. X squared equals 15 divided by 2. We're going to use decimals, so I'm going to make that a decimal. That equals 7.5. Alright. Now I'm take the square root of both sides. Boom. Boom. This becomes x, and over here it becomes plus or minus the square root of 7.5. Now let's find what is the square root of 7.5. Alright, square root 7.5. I have 2.738. Okay, 2 decimal points. I have a 3. The next number is an 8, so I need to round it up to a 4. So 2.74. Alright, so x equals plus or minus 2.74. Ba-boom! Done. In the last one, we did decimals. I mean, decimals, they're cool, but now we're going to try the simplest radical forms. That means no decimals. We leave it in the square root. All right, so over here, let's see. I want to isolate the x, so let me get rid of this minus 3. I'll do a plus 3. Plus 3. This becomes 80 equals 2x squared. Okay. Now to get the x by itself, divide by 2. Divide by 2. That cancels. All right. And I'm left with x squared equals 80 divided by 2 is 40. To get the x squared by itself, right, take the square root. Square root. And now I have x equals plus or minus the square root of 40. All right, that's an answer. But remember, simplest radical form. I can simplify this. And some people, they might like to write the x first. Maybe it looks a little prettier. Can numbers be pretty? I don't know. Maybe. All right, so let me simplify this. Remember, you could draw the number line. I'm thinking the biggest perfect square that goes into 40 is 4. 4 times 10 is 40. So this becomes x equals plus or minus the square root of 4 times the square root of 10. Remember that? And now x equals, the square root of 4 is 2. So plus or minus 2 square root 10. There we go. Next one, we have 25 equals x squared divided by 3. So it's being divided by 3. I'm going to multiply both sides by 3 because that 3 and that 3 cancel. 3 times 25, 75 equals x squared. All right, square root, square root. Now, plus or minus the square root of 75 equals x. Simplified? Nope. Not yet. Biggest perfect square that can go in the 75. That would be 25. This can be written plus or minus the square root of 25. And 25 times 3 is 75. So times the square root of 3 equals x. Square root of 25 is 5, so it's plus or minus 5 square root 3 equals x. All right, and if you want to write the x first, because you like it that way, that's okay too. Plus or minus 5 square root 3. All right, one more. We're flying through this video. Flying. It could be a record. X by itself. All right, plus 5 cancels. 4x squared equals 11 plus 5, 16. Divide by 4. Divide by 4. That cancels. X squared equals 16 divided by 4 is 4. All right. Square root. Square root. X equals plus or minus square root of 4. And what's the square root of 4? It's 2. So x equals plus or minus 2. Wow. Killing it. All right, moving on. All right, last two problems. This could be a world record. So I'm going to show you some weird things that happen. So we'll do this one, solve like we normally do. I would do a minus 8 and then a minus 8. That cancels. X squared equals negative 5. All right, then square root, x equals plus or minus the square root of negative 5. All right, when you have a square root, that means a number times itself equals whatever is on the inside. So is there a number that you multiply by itself that will equal negative 5? I don't think there is. Let's check the calculator, see what it says. All right, so let's take the square root of a negative 5. Ooh, error. All right, so it cannot. There is. Oh, wrong thing. Dr. Evil. It's an error, right? So that means there's no solution. No, and to be more specific, no real solutions. In Algebra 2, you learn about something called imaginary numbers. That's when you deal with negative square roots. But for here, if you have a negative number inside the radical, we're going to say no real solution. All right, last one. This is the fastest I've ever done. You might think, hey, that's a negative number. We can't take the square of a negative number. Well, we need to isolate x first, and then we'll find out. So let's do that like we normally do. We have minus 4. I'll do that. Okay, that cancels. I have minus 2x squared. This becomes more negative, so it's minus 1,664. Whew, that's a big one. All right. Then I divide by negative 2. Divide by negative 2. If you did that in your calculators, right, that cancels. X squared. This is going to be 832. All right. Take square root. And we have x equals plus or minus the square root of 832. Now, if you want to simplify this, we could write the number line down. 1, all the perfect squares, 4, 9, 16, 25. But we'd have to go really far to get 832. So I want to show you something on Desmos that can help you do that. So if I go over to Desmos, I've got my graph. So right here, you can type in whatever you want. If I write y equals 832 divided by x, okay? Then I make a table. So what this is going to do, and I'll get rid of actually that's fine. All of these are factors of 832, right? Negative 2 times 416, 832. Negative 1 times negative 832 equals 832. 1 times 832 equals 832. 2 times 416 equals 832. If I put in 3 times that equals 832. 4 times 208 equals 832. If you don't believe me, what was it? 4 times 408. Oh, wait a sec, what did I do? 4 times 208. Ooh, my bad. 4 times 208 equals 832. So that's finding the factors of 832. If I made this x squared instead, okay? Oh, not x little 2. X squared, like that. And that means this number squared times this side will be 832. So instead of 2 times 208, this is really 2 squared times 208 equals 832. So this would be 4 times 208 equals 832. 4, that would be 4 squared times 52 equals 832. Let's see if that works. 4 squared times, what was it? 52. 832. All right. So if I extend this table, 5, right, that would be 25 times that equals 832. I can just extend it until I get to the smallest factors. How about 6? No. How about 7? No. How about 8? Okay. So this means 8 squared times 13 equals 832. All right. And let's just check. 8 squared times 13 equals 832. All right. That's great news. So if I go over here, this can be x equals plus or minus. So 8 squared, that was 64, right? 64 times the square root of 13. And the square root of 64 is 8. That was the number from the table. So x equals plus or minus 8 times the square root of 13. So if we really go back and look, whatever number this is, that's 8 times the square root of 13. All right. So a little trick there. If that was a little too much, right, you can just, try out numbers factor. But that's a little shortcut you can try to do. All right, that's it. Did I do the world record? I don't know. Maybe not. But good luck with this. You got 2 more packets to do. Good luck with them. And pass those quizzes. Dirkus out. And one more special treat. I just found this website called the Procatinator. All right, it's like procrastination with cats. Let's see. All right. Show me another cat.